Hello and welcome to the Hidden Tracks podcast. Again, I'm Shane Murphy, your host. You can find us at myhiddentracks.com. You can reach us through myhiddentracks99 at Gmail, myhiddentracks1 for Twitter, and hiddentracks99 on Instagram. We are on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. When you listen, please, 5 stars. Write a review. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Even if your review says sucks, as long as it says 5 stars, I'm okay with it. So please help us get out there, trying to help people get their message across. And today I'm lucky to be sitting down with Moksha Sommer, Jemal Hines from HuDost. They are a political band. They have a lot of great messages, I feel, through everything they have out there. They just released a great new song called Our Worlds Will Be Louder. I implore everyone to please go out there and listen to it. As my guest last week put out a song called The Fight. It is another song that people need to hear and need to let it resonate with inside of you and hopefully give some thoughts to you guys. They are Congressional District Representatives for a nonprofit out of Kentucky. And so I'd like to introduce both of you. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us. We're happy to be with you.
I'm happy to have you guys. So let's start right off the bat because this is how I found you guys and everything that's happening right now. Your song, Our Words Will Be Louder. To me, I'll give you, like, towards the end with all the different people singing in your video and everything, it kind of reminds me of like the We Are the World of Zoom, since that's kind of what we're doing. But it adds a little bit to that. So with all the people you had in it, which was really cool. So
awesome. Yeah, we like to think that it's a hair darker than We Are the World,
it's
but
a little bit more towards Do They Know It's Christmas, I guess.
Yeah.
Dan would hate that.
Joking.
We had this vision for the song, and it started, I'll just share, it started with Dan, the lead singer of Jars of Clay.
Dan Haseltine. Yeah,
he sent us just this little less than 2-minute thing of him playing piano and going la 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 la, like not any words, and it was just kind of these 2 little chunks. And he said, what, just do you hear anything with this? Feel free to play with it. We've done some songwriting with him in the past.
Yeah, he co-produced our last album that came out last year, actually.
Yeah, and
Water and Mercy, right? Yeah. That was what it was called.
Yeah, exactly. And really and truly what happened was that we were, attending some protests in our local community. And we've done activism and advocacy work for several years now, especially in relation to the nonprofit that you mentioned that we can tell you more about. But
that's where we met, Dan.
Yeah, that's where we met.
We'll circle back to that.
But basically, that was what was in our minds and in our awareness and what we were struggling with in terms of how it was even taking place in our local community and how it was taking place nationally, and just realizing that this was the kind of time where if we didn't have a unified voice with others who were not being heard, then the problems would just continue. And so we decided, I kind of like, that was just what was in my consciousness. And when I ended up writing the lyrics for the song and then also some of the other parts, of the music and everything, I just sort of felt like I couldn't not allow that to come through in terms of what was being addressed. And then we were able to just get this like amazing crew of musicians involved for doing what we did in the studio, and then also for everyone that we got involved afterwards in terms of all the people who did cameos and that kind of thing. So it went from being just kind of like, this is our perspective right now with what's happening, to becoming this whole collective voice. So it was really interesting how it played out with that.
And we were already working on a whole slew of songs. We're working on a new record that we've all written during COVID. So, to quote Ron Burgundy, it escalated quickly. All of a sudden we wrote this song. The song like came through really quickly. And then we're like, wow, this is a protest song. Because we actually won an IMA earlier this year for an activism song. For another song we co-wrote with Dan. So
Rise Together, right?
Yeah, and then we went right. We hadn't been playing with other musicians since COVID happened, so we're like, when it started to lighten up a little bit, at least with our perception of it lightening up, because God knows what's going on with that. But we went in and recorded it really quickly. We filmed it. All of a sudden, we had the idea of the cameos, and this song took, just like, all the other songs went on the back burner, and we had to get this out.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty awesome. I mean, you're not the first people that I've talked to that have a song so, like, it's a great song. It's a very personable song. You take that song personally, and as you're saying that it came together really quickly. Like, talking to musicians who will sit down and work on a song for 10 years before it comes out, and then the song that makes a difference took them, 25 minutes. I'm not saying it took you 25 minutes, but I'm saying it was quick, and it just came together and everything worked out perfectly. I mean, that's got to be an amazing feeling.
Right. Yeah. Rise Together was like that too. It came together. I mean, it's interesting. Like, I love doing that kind of collaboration with other artists too, where it's interesting, Dan sending just this little snippet, but it can be this huge inspiration for what then comes forward. And what was interesting too is, like, it makes me so nervous going into the studio with the entire band. Like, right, we're paying for our studio time and all of the musicians, and we had our camera guy with us there. And the song wasn't even totally finished in terms of the arrangement. So we, went into the studio and we're just like, here's how it is. And it was not until the very end of the day, everybody had left except for us.
We were on our third win too. Yeah. We were about to pack it up and go home. It was like 10 o'clock.
We were about to go home. It was the only people left in the studio. All the band had gone home. Our videographer had gone home. And the only people left were the two of us, Christie Lenée, who's the guitarist who we play with a lot, and Matt, who is
Matt Oddmark.
He's one of the members of Jars of Clay, and he was kind of playing he was the sound engineer for this. And
he co-produced this track with us.
Yeah, he did. But it was just the four of us left in the studio. We were all we'd just eaten supper and everything, and we were just listening to what had been done for the day. And the whole chorus part that is now the end section of the song that all the cameos are singing to, that wasn't even a part of the song. And suddenly I had this just like, oh my God. And I grabbed
the epiphany popped in. This has to happen.
Yeah.
Moksha had the our words will be louder, and they started doing that. And then Matt from Jars of Clay did the echoing back above the arm, or the kind of answer back thing. And we're like, wow.
Right. So I grabbed Christy and pulled her into the vocal booth, and I was like, we're doing this Queen style. So I taught her the main line, and we sung it together, and then we stacked the harmonies, the highs and the lows and everything. And by the time we were done that night, we were like, whoa, that was what was supposed to come through for the whole resolution of the song. And, that was when we then were like, this is the part that we need to get all these different artists to do cameo appearances for, because this is the whole thing. This is about what can be done with the collective voice in terms of shifting perspective. Right. So, it was, you're right in terms of yes, there are songs that we have done that have taken agonist crafting. And then there are ones like this that it really is just this urgency and this surge.
Even the mixing was
that comes through.
Matt, from Jars of Clay mixed it too, and we, he worked on it. Pretty much, we came in to listen to his first level mix, and we were like, "Hey, sounds great." We made a few little tweaks, but it was just one of those magical things.
It's one of those moments that if you could bottle it for every song you do, you would.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. And what was cool too is that having that vision of having all these cameos and stuff, yes, it was a lot to coordinate all the people that were involved on it, but there was total willingness in terms of all of our friends who are activists who are on it and all of the artists who are on it. They were like, yep, cool, I'm on board, and just did it and got us the videos and all of that stuff. So that helped the process a lot.
Even the Poor People's Campaign, who the single's benefiting, the Poor People's Campaign, and that's Reverend Barber at the end of the video, who runs.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, that ending of that video. I mean, I'm literally going to talk about. I'm getting goosebumps right now, but it is such a passionate plea.
Yeah.
That you can just hit that and play that over and over and over and over again. And if it doesn't get through to somebody, there's something even furtherly wrong with them than just not being able to listen to something.
Yeah, agreed. And the Poor People's Campaign, they helped put that part together for us too, because their main video guy, we had been in touch, and he was like, "Hey, have you heard this speech?" And as soon as we heard it, we were both in tears, in terms of what's conveyed through it. And we were like, "Yes, please, can we use that segment?" So they put together, that's the part that they did, was like the video that's included in that end segment and his speech at the end. And, honestly, like, still seeing the music video, and it's been on repeat in our lives, obviously, for a while, especially through the editing process and everything. But I still get tears in my eyes with that end segment in terms of what he's communicating in that message.
Yeah, it really is. It's one of those things that if I do nothing more for that song is to just go to someone, get to that end, and just say, just listen to this guy.
Yeah.
Just close your eyes, listen, and you need to be better. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. It's there's nothing more to say after that. You need to hear that and be better and try to be better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk that act of it. I want to touch on this because it is a nonprofit organization, but with your advocacy, explain a little bit more of that, because honestly, reading about everything you guys do, I don't know where you have time to go into a studio to record a song.
Yeah. Do you know that we also have a child?
Yeah. Child, you're an artist. There's so much stuff that the two of you do. I don't know how you have time to go in and put together a song like this and everything you do.
We don't know how we have time for it either, but we love everything that we have on the table. So that's a positive thing. But in terms of the work that we would do with One, so
the One Campaign
is what it's called. And if anybody wants to check it out, it's one.org. That's one.org. And we've been doing this for several.
They don't ask for money.
No, they don't ask for money. It's all advocacy-based work. And our role specifically is that we are basically representatives of other people in the state of Kentucky, and we're the ones that go and meet with congressmen and senators here to convey concerns. But what we're doing with it is the main aim is ending extreme poverty, but it's approaching it on the global scale.
We actually go and meet with like Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul, and it's nonpartisan. So we have to, whatever issues or viewpoints we have to put those up on the rack before we go into their offices,
Yeah.
So they'll even think about talking to you.
Yeah, exactly. We really do. We have to speak to them human to human and say, and try to not do any party line division. And if anything, just try to approach it from the practical and moral angle. And it's interesting for us to learn the right ways to do that. But we're putting forward basically different bills that approach global poverty, global extreme poverty, and what that means and how it can be addressed. So over the years, we've done a lot in terms of especially equal access to education for girls and young women in places of extreme poverty. We've done stuff around sustainable electricity in places that don't have any electricity at all, especially for schools and clinics and that kind of thing. It's been various issues, but it's really addressing what it is that we can do to shift things in order to empower people who have never had the opportunity to, completely reclaim their lives. So the thing is, we've done that a lot, and we're still absolutely working with One on the global level, but especially in this time, there's been a call to us to also work with Poor People's Campaign and other more local and nationally based organizations, because, it's been an affront.
We're going to be working
everybody.
At the polls.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing some poll working and some, poll monitoring and things like that.
Yeah, that's great. I have I have a question, and this is for me, and maybe it'll help me and maybe it'll help other people. When it comes to this kind of stuff and what you're doing, how, for me as a person and trying to do something, how do you stay positive? and not get discouraged by what we're seeing? How do you do that? Because you guys are doing so much, and how do you stay focused? Because I think some of us might need help with that, on how to, stay the course, keep doing what you're doing, stay positive, and not get discouraged when you hit a roadblock.
I can answer the first mini part of that. I mean, starting to work with one when we did, one of the reasons we did start working with them is because we were getting discouraged. And working with one, you can actually start to see results. Like, it wasn't long after we joined them, because they needed somebody for Kentucky. And not too long after we joined them, we went to D.C. and did a whole lobbying thing, and we passed an Electrify Africa bill that was like the only unanimous thing that got passed on, both parties, a bill. And we were just like, holy crap, it actually is possible. Like we actually did something, and then we also got people in our community. We have friends, like a team and people that we had write letters, and we hand delivered all these letters. So then we could actually go back to our people that did those things and go like, guess what? We passed this. You passed this. Like, you helped do this. We actually did something,
Yeah,
it is. Even this election season has been so stressful, this whole leading up, it's just madness right now. So
yeah, I think he definitely addressed the overall experience, but leading up to our working with one, as musicians and artists, we were trying to address, and parents, we were trying to address some of the stuff that was troubling to us in the world, and some of the stuff that we felt we could do to bring hope to others, through the arts, right? And I think that that's an incredible tool. Obviously, I mean, that's our number one tool. But the fact is, we were feeling just like it was not an adequately effective tool with this. Like, we felt like we needed to exert ourselves in more than one direction with that kind of stuff. And so, as he said, doing the work with one, it changed our perspective on how effective we actually can be. And we now see it like, the truth is, there are some of us, many of us in developed nations whose voices are actually heard if we use them. And especially in terms of having the ability to talk to representatives, and the fact that their job, if they're doing their job correctly, their job is to represent us, is to listen to what people, in their areas are concerned about.
They need reminders.
They need reminders. And, the thing is, we know that other people have very different ways of doing it. We have found that through peaceful advocacy and speaking human to human in this regard has been an effective way of doing it. And, that's on the practical front. And we hope that that is also true on the creative front in terms of what we're putting forward. That, music is the kind of thing that can actually speak to people on a deeper level and change their perspective as well. So, it's, for us, it's been important to be able to act in both ways. And that's part of what keeps us sane through all of this. Otherwise, I think it'd feel really, we were getting, what's the right word for it? We were just becoming bitter, jaded and bitter. And I was like, I don't want to be a jaded, bitter person. I want to be able to remain happy and open, but effective,
Yeah. So. I completely understand that. And I think what you're doing through music too, and it's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because music is so important, and music touches so many different people in so many different ways. And I've always said it before, every song that's out there has a different meaning to somebody else. They heard it at a different time in their life. They heard something they heard it a different way. I've always said, if you sit down and listen to a song, you hear it one way. And then if you read the lyrics to a song, you hear it a different way. I always sometimes I put out Elliott Smith is, if you read some of his lyrics, they were happy songs sung to a really sad tone, but they were a happy song, but it just hits differently. And I think what you're doing through music and the songs that you're writing are something that are going to hit people differently. And I hope everybody can appreciate hearing it in the way that it's kind of meant to be, but finding their own meaning within it. So I commend you for doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, those are the best songs. They're like really good wines. They age well, and they, develop whole new levels of experience as they age. And that's the thing is that right now, I think this song in this time, yes, there is a specific message in relation to what's happening currently, but we actually took out a few time-based political lyrics that were in there in order to make it so that it could be the kind of song that could have an ongoing long-term message to it.
Yeah, it can stand the test of time throughout. Yeah. I mean, the country is so young, and it kind of sometimes feels like we've been fighting the same problems from almost day one. And it just keeps growing, and hopefully we're maturing. And that's the same thing when it comes to music. You hear people's first record to, you guys are on your 8th, right? So you hear that maturing in music, and you grow with it. So hopefully we can, as you guys grow with music, you grow as a country and a nation, and try to put all this bullshit, that divides us behind us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do we have 8 records? I think it's like having multiple kids. You lose count at a certain point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, absolutely. In terms of what you were saying, though, so eloquently.
So let's get. I want to get a little bit behind the curtain here, and speaking with music and finding out a little bit of a personal aspect of the both of your lives, and then how you two came together. But the first thing I really want to know, and from each of you, whoever wants to go first on this, but when did music in your life change and become an art? And what I mean by that is, when was it no longer, Saturday morning cartoon or Sesame Street songs, to when music really changed, when you heard that first tone or that melody? And a lot of people always go with the Beatles. You hear that harmony in the voices, and that's when they realized music was something different. When was it for you guys that it changed?
Who's first?
Well, we have totally different music histories. So I can go first, and I'll just say that I grew up, both my parents were artists, and my parents would even host really interesting musicians. They were kind of tapped into, especially the whole, New York kind of avant-garde world, and
Meredith Monk.
Yeah. And the kind of Montreal scene. So I was exposed to music from a really different angle from a young age, and I think I was taught to listen in a way that most kids are not taught to listen. So that kind of ability to hear music developed really early for me. And I started playing classical piano at 6, and then, it just kind of developed from there. But yeah, do you want to share your?
Mine's a little bit more long-winded and
that's fine.
Complicated. I see. I grew up Southern Baptist, in the South in Florida.
Yeah. Well, you had singing churches.
What's that?
You had your singing churches, right?
No, it was boring singing. It was like boring, boring Southern Baptist. Like, please stand and turn to page 36 in your hymnal. You may now be seated. You're going to hell. Yeah. And they'd scream. It'd be boring until they started screaming about hell. But anyway, I just remember my all of my memories for as early as possible. Like, my earliest memories are me being listening to Elton John, and if I track that back, it was 2 and 3 years old, because my brother had those albums, with Rocket Man and Crocodile Rock and all those. That's where those things were. So that my early years are all timed according to I remember what happened what year because of what albums came out. So I've always been this chronological guy, and even my first love of album collecting. We've got a massive vinyl collection in our house.
Way too massive. Just
There's no such thing as way too massive.
No, there's no. If you were to see where I'm sitting right now in my studio, it is vinyl and CDs and tapes. Just too much for one person to really have.
Yeah,
really
DVDs, and I don't want to get rid of them because it's like a library. It's an archive. But but I got into the Osmonds first off, and even in my second grade, what do you want to be book kind of thing. I want when I grow up, I want to move to Utah and be a Mormon so I can be like the Osmonds. And but I was calling, and you can ask my parents; they'll tell you. I was like calling, getting Osmond records, and then I was looking at the inner sleeves and going, I don't have this record or this one or this one or this one. And I'd be calling all the local record stores and being like, do you have the Osmond second album, blah, 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 in stock? But then...
do you think they thought that was really cute when you
They probably thought it was cute, but then when they started not thinking it was so cute was all of a sudden I started getting rid of my Osmonds records when I discovered Kiss around my son's age and when I was like 7 years old. And I was like, screw the Osmonds, rock and roll, like, fuck yeah,
yeah.
And, I was sticking out my tongue. I was drawing. I was getting all the Kiss records and, I got into Queen around that time too. So that was when I was like, I want to do this. And then as I went along, the church was telling me, that stands for Knights in Satan's Service, Kiss, devil worshipers. And I was like, well, if I have to spend an eternity in hell listening to this music versus listening to page 36 in your piano boring hymnal book, I will choose, a fiery pit for eternity. So that kind of Moksha's heard this a million times, but it's true. So but when I finally really when I started getting into Eddie Van Halen is the person that got me that, I went out and bought a Kramer guitar because of Eddie Van Halen at 16 years old. I instantly started a punk rock band in Gainesville, Florida. And just, I didn't even know how to play yet, but it was just like feedback, delay pedals, distortion pedals, and just, it was this, journey that started. And then
when was that? Because Gainesville, Florida still has a pretty prevalent punk rock scene there.
Yeah, that was the late 80s.
Okay.
I played my first gig in a punk rock band when I was not even out of graduated from high school yet in 1987. So that was like pre Less Than Jake. That was like, pre Sister Hazel. We were still playing parties in the Tom Petty house that was still there, which is not there anymore. Like the house they all lived in, we were doing like house party. I mean, he was long gone, obviously, but he was always there kind of overhanging the Gainesville thing. Like, anytime we were driving around delivering pizzas in Gainesville and he's going, gotta get out of this town, and I'm like, yes, I gotta get out of this town,
Yeah. R.I.P. Tom Petty. I think today was supposed to be his 70th birthday. So
I know.
Yes.
We can have it on our calendar.
Yeah. Put him on our calendar. He's just, he's amazing. And I saw him a couple months after before he passed. But this just not to go too long on the musical thing, but my punk rock thing started then some psychedelics started coming into the picture at a certain point, and that's when I kind of started veering off into Sonic Youth, kind of noise, scratch acid, Sonic Youth, noise, psychedelic noise rock kind of stuff, My Bloody Valentine, that kind of thing, which eventually led me to the Grateful Dead and the hippie scene and the jam scene. But then then I was always into Prince and Earth, Wind and Fire too, and I'm just I'm a big washing machine full of influences.
I am as well. As I always say, good music is good music, no matter what genre or type it is. I always say you can't deny a good song, no matter who sings it. I don't care if it's Justin Bieber or Eddie Vedder. If it's a good song, it's a good song, and you have to appreciate it and respect it. And there's something for everyone. So your musical journey.
I have yet to discover a really good Justin Bieber song.
I'm trying to pander to some.
I'm sure there are.
There have to be. I haven't delved deep into his catalog.
I don't know.
Neither have I.
But I am a big Pearl Jam fan. I saw them the year before last when we were touring. We were in Seattle, and we had a night off in Seattle, and they just so happened to be playing the baseball stadium, one of their big home return shows. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go see Pearl Jam in Seattle. And I've never seen him before, and I could get nobody to go with me, so I went by myself, and I was like completely blown away. I still get.
I don't want to talk about it because I had tickets to see them March 28th of this year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to take a trip with my friends to Baltimore because I didn't want to go to MSG. I wanted to go to an outdoor stadium to see them, and so we all know what happened there.
They'll be back though.
They'll be back.
Yeah, they will, and I it was one of those things where I was like, I want to see him. I've never seen him. I'm a huge fan of them. And at one point, my friend asked me, he goes, hey, you want to go see Temple of the Dog at MSG? And I'm not a big stadium, like arena type of concert type of person. I just think sometimes things get lost. And it's always usually really expensive. And I was like, nah, I don't want to see him. I'll whatever. When they come around for their, 40th anniversary, I'll go see him. And then now I never can see them. So as soon as my buddy goes, you want to go see Pearl Jam? I was like, yes, let's buy the tickets. Yes, let's go. I made the mistake.
You got to do the bucket list things now at this point because you just you don't know.
Yeah, that's why I say from that scene, somebody better just get Eddie Vedder, put him in a bubble, and let no one come around him because he's one of the last voices out of that Seattle scene. So
yeah, it's true.
The same thing, I've mentioned that back to Tom Petty since it's his birthday. Like whenever he did that last tour, he played in Nashville, and I had this thing, like I was sick. I actually came down with the flu after, but I was still starting to get it. I could get no one to go with me. I got a ticket 15 minutes before the show, sat in the third level behind the stage with eating Sudafed and trying to just like not cough and sniffle all over the place.
I couldn't go because I already had a full-on
I was
fever.
trying to get somebody to come with me. I was like sick as a dog, but sitting back there watching him behind the stage, and I was like, thank God I'm here. This is like, I would not rather be anywhere else. And I had this strong feeling because I could see it when Tom Petty would, he'd be rocking. And since I was sitting behind the stage looking at a screen, I could see when he would walk off stage, to get air when they were jamming or to take a drink or whatever. And as soon as he would walk back there, he would start limping and just kind of deflate for a moment. And I would be like, man, something is wrong with him. And then he would, strap back on his guitar and come back out and, become the rock star again. So I was just like, I was so thankful to be there.
Yeah, that was, I had one of my favorite bands. Not sure if you ever heard of them, but anybody out there, Frightened Rabbit, Scottish band. I got to see them a couple of times, and they were coming through. They were doing a small show, and I had bought 2 tickets as soon as they went on sale. And I was really excited to go, and I couldn't find anybody to go with me. And I was like, I'm going to go. I'll hand the ticket to somebody outside who wants to get in. It doesn't have a ticket. And so I go in and I see them. I'm getting goosebumps talking about this. But that was their final show in New York City. And 3 days later, they couldn't find Scott Hutchinson anywhere.
Wow, gosh.
And they eventually found him by a bridge, no longer with us. And that was my moment of just coming to the realization of mortality, and also being, there's I can't waste a moment of my life just always worrying about things and not doing things that I want to do. That's how I got to this podcast. I've always wanted to do something like this and talk with people about music and their musical journeys. And it was kind of like, no more wasted time. I'm not going to waste a minute anymore on anything that has negativity towards it or trying to bring something out there.
Yeah.
So that's going to, that's going to lead me to my next thing. How does a punk rocker Kiss Army get together with a classical pianist?
Well, I can give a little bit more. I think the question that you originally asked was just what first awakened our hearing, and then he went into
yes.
I can share that.
My thing's I'm older.
I can share too that like my experience started there, but I did a lot of journeying musically as well, and definitely went the song route. Did of course classical piano, but then went the songwriter route. And also a huge awakening for me too was in my teens touring with singing choral music I did like Eastern European stuff, and then also like gospel and even some like shape note stuff. And, having some musical training already, there was something about singing with multiple voices and having that experience of what that was like to be part of a group where there were, multiple parts being voiced at the same time and discovering my own voice in that. That was a really awakening experience for me personally. And that kind of brought me into exploring a huge realm of music that, I don't feel like there's ever an end to that in terms of where one can go. So I did, in university, I'll just say that I did a combination of visual, and installation and sculpture based work. And I did like chamber music composition for voice and, that kind of stuff too. So,
and you've studied in India with Indian singers and in Turkey with Turkish singers and.
Yeah. So with that said, though, also continuously trying to stay as aware as I can in terms of the Western music world. And especially like, even in my early teens, I started to really get into protest-based music and activist-based music. And I think it took a while for me to know how to actually write that kind of music, because it's a lot more challenging than it might seem. Like some of the best music that has that kind of expression, there's a lot of really bad music out there that tries to do that, and it's really hard. Like I honestly have written a good number of really bad protest-based songs because it's really easy to seem just like a false idealist or be campy or be cliche in terms of that, or just be bitter, so that's been a real area of learning for me in terms of musical process. And we came together in a whole other thing. I mean, so do you want to answer how you came to the point in your music where we could actually be on the same page?
This, like I said, the Grateful Dead was kind of the gateway into like moving from the like dark. I mean, Sonic Youth isn't really dark, but like.
No, yeah, it's
listening to the Butthole Surfers and some other like really weird kind of Soviet France and just some weird stuff. But I started getting into like Eno and the Dead, ambient music, and at a certain point after that, after my punk rock band broke up, I started playing in this polyrhythmic just intonation world music ensemble in Gainesville, with all these homemade instruments with these weird scales. And the guy that was running the thing, we couldn't play anything in 4/4. It all had to be like in 5 or 7 or 13. And like, so he kind of trained us to playing these weird rhythms and different things. So the world music thing. And then I started playing drums with belly dance troops and learning these Middle Eastern rhythms and stuff like that. And I had a briefly, actually it wasn't that brief, but in the 90s, I had this kind of psychedelic prog goth band. There was kind of a jam band with, it doesn't even make sense at this point. It was, but it was, the 90s were weird. Do
you remember that segment of the 90s where there would be music that had like almost like guided meditation voices in the midst of a full on?
I mean, one of the number one selling albums in the 90s was, what was that, Chant with the monks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so that in turn, in the 90s, you had that, and then Ministry, Filth Pig. Like, I mean, those were It was all over the place.
Oh, the 90s. But anyway, that's a little taste of what he was doing in that.
Yeah, in the 90s, that's what I was doing, and I was just kind of on this, like, I was still, tapering off of the psychedelic thing, trying to, but it was, the 90s were a challenging time, I tell you.
I was just a cute little teenager, so I didn't know anything at that point.
You were a teenager, but, then, we met 20 years ago, strangely. She was 18.
Yeah.
I was 30. And, and we met at a Sufi festival, which was I don't know if you know much about the Sufis, or it was at a Rumi festival, the poet Rumi, in North Carolina. And she came down from Canada, and I had driven up from Florida, and we were chanting and playing drums and getting really intense, and she started singing, and we saw each other and connected. And
it was us and a whole huge crew of Turkish Sufis and whirling dervishes and
Sufis from all over the place.
Yeah, really, it was really interesting. That was quite an experience for both of us,
because that was also the tapering off of the psychedelics for me. Because that was my kind of way to deprogram myself from the Southern Baptist upbringing. And I started getting into yoga and Ram Dass and like Eastern, that's the Dead helped me do that, getting into the Grateful Dead, getting into the more Eastern philosophy kind of stuff, Gurdjieff and, E.J. Gold and stuff like that. And then the Rumi thing, that brought me into Sufism, hanging out with the Sufis. And Moksha and I kind of met on that plane. And then we started, within less than a year, right about a year, we were already she came down to Florida, and I had a multi-track recording thing, and we started recording and writing and just creating right away.
And it was interesting.
Falling in love.
Yeah, it was interesting to see how, with our completely different musical knowledge, how that was complementary, and how it played together. And I think that's still some of the stage dynamic that we have, is this because we can get pretty fun, wild, intense, especially in the performance setting.
The sonic youth.
Raucous, you can say it.
It can be raucous. It can be raucous. It's an interesting combination of really, really delicate and then really intense and loud, right? So we play with the polarity of that, and it's an interesting experience. And I think that sort of part of that is what our different influences bring to what the palette is that we have to work from with that. So yeah, it's an interesting combo.
Yeah. I mean, but it works.
It does work. Yeah,
it works.
Yeah.
Where'd the name come from?
So the name is actually, it really derives from that meeting point for us. HuDost is a Turkish greeting, and Hu is it's almost like the universal sound, it's sort of like if you know the term namaste, it's like the Turkish namaste. It's like the universal breath and sound, right? That everything shares. And then dost means true friend. So it's like the true friend of that sound and of that breath. That's what it actually translates as. But it kind of, it traces us back to that origin point in terms of our own relationships. And what we hope to convey through the music too is that thing of being a true friend to that connective sound that we all share.
Well, I just got to say, for the both of you, I mean, I hope you started writing your autobiographies during this time, because your stories, as they come together, I mean, it's a great story individually. I mean, just from what I'm listening to now, and we haven't been talking that long, but I do feel like I know you, and just your individual stories just are compelling, and the music that you were into and growing into that. I mean, I would suggest writing some of this down.
Thanks.
Not only for your child, but for other people. for other people.
Yeah, we both have interesting, weird stories. There's a lot of interesting things that happen when you have an open heart, somewhat innocent eye, and exploratory capacity, both in terms of like, on the international travel and artistic front. If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, in later days on the political front, in terms of what that means. So
we talked about, you guys don't even remember how many albums you have because it's been such a journey to where you are. How did you get in touch with all these different artists? Dan from Jars of Clay. How did you hook up with those guys? And you had all these people in your video too, that, one was, she was on Broadway. You have all these different people. Are you meeting through all the advocacy work that you guys are doing, or?
A lot of it.
I'd say that it's different stories. We'll come back to meeting with Dan in a second, because that's sort of a different story. But I will say, all of the activists in the video are people that we have connected through that work. But
and being on tour too.
Being on tour is really, we play, a huge portion of what we play are festivals all over the place. And one of the things we love about festivals, of course, it's like always super fun crowds, and it's, great way to connect with people, but it's also the opportunity that we have to see other musicians play, and we get to actually enjoy music that we've never encountered before. And we've met amazing, amazing people who are in other groups that way. And
that's how we met Gangsta Grass.
We're not of the competitive spirit at all. We're of the collaborative spirit. You know what I mean? So encountering other musicians who we are in awe of is always something we enjoy deeply. And then Dan specifically, I don't know if you want to share about this, Jemal, but Dan we actually met him in DC doing that work, doing advocacy work, and he was joining.
Dan from Jars of Clay.
Yeah, sorry. Do you want to talk about his nonprofit?
Well, yeah, he's got an organization called Bloodwater, which helps build clean water wells and helps teaching, like people sanitation and stuff in places of extreme poverty to help fight, HIV/AIDS and, just get clean water to people. So he was also, part of the One campaign, because One, I don't know if you know, is that's Bono's organization, hence the name.
Yeah. Yep.
Even though, so he's a big U2 fan. I'm a big U2 fan. We're all big U2 fans, and we're Bono fans. But he came to D.C., and we met him while we were lobbying in D.C. And I wasn't even a Jars of Clay fan at the time. I was like, oh, yeah, that's that Christian band from the 90s,
It gets a bad rap. I liked Jars of Clay in the 90s. So
I just kind of didn't listen, because I was just like, Christian 90s music? No thank you.
And I'd never heard of them before. I just met this really sweet guy.
But then he kind of blew us away. Like he did a talk, and we were like, when we met him, we were like, wow, this guy is like really like insightful and intense. And then he gave us a copy of their last record that they did, and we were like, this is like Christian rock. This is like, it's like, like U2 or, Bono Christian, but it's not like.
But they were Christians, and that's why people started labeling them, Christian rock. There was one or two songs that were very Christian, but they're just a bunch of people who were, they had a belief, and they sang a couple songs about it, but they were a rock band.
Yeah, and they had no problem dropping F-bombs or telling what, telling what they really feel about things either. But then the more we started befriending Jars of Clay, we realized, oh, they got banned from all the Christian music stores, years ago, because Dan is, they're speaking out, for equality, racial equality and sexual equality. And they're like, oh, well, of course they're going to get banned by Christians for speaking about things like this, Yeah. And so we're like, oh, these guys are really, they won't do altar calls at their concert. So obviously they're bad Christians. So we're like, oh, they're heathens too, like us. We really like them.
We just, for us, it was a really interesting thing meeting him doing the nonprofit work and being really moved by what he had to share. And then for me, discovering like, oh, this is awesome music, like in terms of the songwriting and that kind of thing. And then
they're
sort
like
of
really great.
They're really great songwriters. And I will say, it's been, how many years has it been that we've been working with them now? Like 4
years,
maybe 5 years now. And,
they're very easy to work with. However,
they've been attacked on the Christian front, they're some of the best Christians that I've ever met, because they are like kind, humble people who have actually given their lives to, humanitarian work and service.
Serving people.
And
they're not trying to convince you of anything.
No. And they're great to work with. I mean, we just, every now and then we kind of like slap each other's faces and remind each other, like, we're working with really established musicians with this stuff, they're like really well-regarded musicians, and it's for a reason. So, anyway, it's been a real joy to work with those guys. And we've continued over the years to do like specifically advocacy-based work together, as well, doing what we can for Bloodwater. And Dan has done a lot on behalf of One as well. He's come at least a couple of the times that we've done advocacy work in DC. He's come and been part of that as well. So we were supposed to be literally right now, we were supposed to be with him in Africa. But of course, those plans shifted in relation to COVID. So we hope that'll be rescheduled at some point.
How are you guys doing through all of this? I mean, again, with everything you normally do, having a child, writing songs, recording, advocacy, and being sheltered. I mean, how do you accomplish it?
That's a great question. I mean, we were supposed to be touring all over the place, touring Europe, touring Africa, touring through North America in the last months. And
it was going to be our first Europe tour since 2007.
Yeah, it had been a while since we'd been in Europe, and we were going to be bringing our little boy with us. It was
going to be our biggest year yet.
Last year was a huge year for us in terms of, especially just like the album that we put out did well. It went pretty high on the Billboard charts. It won an IMA, all of that stuff. And we toured all over the place and did very well with it. And then this year was going to be the like wham bam follow up year to that. And it started that way. Like early in the year, we did like, a few festivals and a couple like.
We did one festival.
And then
we did Folk Alliance. That was in January. And then the end of January, we did Folk Alliance Conference, which we had hooked up a whole bunch of other connections and gigs. And then we did the big One campaign summit in DC, and we're like, this is starting off to be an awesome year.
And then
Africa and Europe is just not even happening yet. We were going to open for the Church in the fall. The band, the Church. The
Australian band, the Church.
Yep.
We collaborated with them in the past too. And we were
going
to be doing
COVID hit.
And then COVID hit. So it changed everything. And, the fact is though, that like, I think we all, with every challenge that arises, we have two options. We have a fall down option, right? That's just the like head between our knees kind of option. Or we have the question of, okay, how do we adapt? What do we do? And so, one of the pieces that we were supposed to be doing in the spring, for example, was a collaborative interdisciplinary piece with the visual artist Jana Harper and a bunch of the members of the New Dialect Dance Company. And
it was going to be a tour.
It was supposed to be it was supposed to be a performance, mainly through Oz Arts in Nashville. And we had been doing a lot of prep for it, and suddenly we went, wow, the performance is not going to happen. So how do we do this? And so we completely shifted it, where all of the dancers did all of their stuff in isolation and were filmed. We, instead of doing the whole score to perform it, we recorded the whole score. There was a whole bunch of like a whole visual arts element done to it. And it ended up being a live streamed thing still through Oz Arts. And actually it was just this last week we won.
You won the Writer's Choice Award for Best Streaming Event, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it was this like tear our hair out rapid adjustment, which in retrospect we're like, wow, it actually was really effective, and it became something completely different than what was first imagined.
And the music's for the soundtrack is really good. We have
exactly,
which will come out at some point.
And that piece may adapt, and who knows, maybe it will eventually be performed. But we ended up happy with what it became, actually. And I think that's true. Like, yes, we totally have missed touring. There's something that's like so unique about performing with a live audience, right? It's this incredible, vibrant experience. And we've done a whole bunch of live streamed things through some of the arts organizations and festivals that we were going to be playing, and just some on our own, just from our kitchen and from our house. And those have been fun to do. But in all honesty, it's not the same as what it is with a live crowd, right? So nowhere close. So we really, really miss that, and we really look forward to doing that again. But we wouldn't have written all the songs that we have in this time if we'd been touring as heavily as we were going to. We wouldn't have done this whole project, right? The Our Words Will Be Louder project. So, we're just thankful to have the ability to adapt and figure out new means of surviving. We're also really grateful to be artists who are already established enough so that this doesn't sink our careers, because there are a lot of younger artists who are just starting, and this is the kind of thing that, like, any traction they were gaining, it's gone, right? We're able.
Yeah, it's hard. I've talked to a lot of artists through this, and I feel bad that all I can do is just try doing what I'm doing now and getting their music out and helping them. But it's so difficult. I can only imagine. This is what I've said when it came to this. And you brought up that point where you can either adapt or you can just put your head between your legs. And I don't want any of these musicians and young artists to have stopped doing what they're doing because they don't think it's going to happen, because it only takes one song. That's what I say. It only takes one song.
I know. And I think back to the beginning of our careers, though, and I think, we worked our butts off, like, just constantly touring and constantly going. And that's what made it so that we became established enough to survive if something like this happens, right? But I think, like, what if we had a setback in that time period? Like, how would we have even been able to adjust? Because it feels like, in those first days, it feels like it's almost like a just treading water kind of thing, even just on the like income front, right? From trying to do that. So, we have a lot of compassion for people in that situation. So I say what I say in terms of the head between the legs versus the, like, adaptation. Wait, head between the legs sounds inappropriate. Head between the knees. Versus adapting. I say that from the perspective of, like, knowing that adaptation takes a lot more work for some people, depending on where they are in their process.
Yeah, it's definitely tough for people. I'm a veteran, and one of the things we were always told was adapt and overcome, and that's one of the things that I use in my everyday life that I still take with me. Where, listen, everything's not going to go well, and if you think it is, you're in for a really big disappointment in life. So it's how the situation comes at you, and it's how you handle it is what is going to basically give you what you have in life. And if you just sit there and say, okay, if this is the best it's going to be, we got to make the best out of it.
Yeah. And the thing too, I will say too, is it's not like we were just dealt a life blow that we had to overcome. Everybody's in this boat, like, everybody is adjusting in this way, yet we're, like, partially homeschooling our son right now too, right? But us and every other parent is dealing with how to adjust to this. So I think there's something that makes it just gives a different perspective when you can realize that, like, we have to do this as a community and back other people up in this process as well too.
Yeah. And through all this, what's great is we have all this music out there in the world. that we can be listening to, and we can be finding these other people who may be struggling artists that are fantastic, that just haven't had their break yet. And you don't always have to have a break. And, if you're going into this because you want to be huge and have a break, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Oh, and you know what? Things are so different in the industry. I don't know that we've had a break. I think it's just been this
it's hard work. You worked hard.
Yeah, we work hard, and it's just this slow development. So
we're very persistent.
We're to use a lovely term, we're persistent motherfuckers. We are, I don't know. I think part of it boils down to, in terms of one's ability to continue in this industry, boils down to how hard-headed you are and how passionate you are about the work and how much you really are dedicated to it.
Well, you guys have definitely earned your stripes. And so, I mean, this could go on forever. I'd love to, can't wait to read your book that I'm going to force you guys to each write.
And next time I want to interview you, because I'm curious about your story too.
Everybody keeps asking that, and I'm going to one day interview myself, because I'm sure all the questions that I ask people, everybody wants to know. I've had people come up to me that I know that I've interviewed and be like, dude, when are you going to talk about yourself? I'm like, that's not what I'm doing this for. It's not for me. It's for everyone else.
I think you should let all of the artists that you've interviewed give questions that you have to answer.
We could do that one day, possibly.
That would be a fun thing, right?
Yeah. So, hardworking people who have a child that you need to take care of. I don't want to take any more of your time. What I do when I end every episode here, and this is to help people learn more about music, is 3 things you're listening to right now. You can each have your own. 3 things you're listening to that you want people to know about. I have my 3, but you guys basically get 6 unless you're going to agree on a couple. But 3 bands, artists, things you're listening to right now that you'd like people to hear.
Okay, I'll answer first because he'll have a totally different answer from me. I've been a really slow adopter of Florence and the Machine. And
fantastic. I saw her like 3 times. She's great.
Just getting into that catalog. And I'm kind of feel like a little bit of a dolt that I'm like, why is it taking me so long? So that's one of the things I'm listening to. I don't know if we're allowed to answer in terms of audiobooks, but I have been, when I go for jogs, I've been listening to Baba Ram Dass, and it's pretty awesome. I have to say, I'm loving just hearing the calming sound of his voice that makes me think about things from a different perspective. And then we also just got the new Gillian Welch and David Rollins vinyl that they just put out, that they are home pressing. They're literally doing it in their own place, and they've put out a limited number. They even did
they do
home pressed art prints, and we just got that in the last couple of days. So we've been listening.
Yeah, they record it in their studio, then they master it straight to vinyl, and they have a vinyl pressing thing there, and they're doing them to order.
Wow. Well, they have to. There's only 2 vinyl pressing places, and one of them burnt down, right? So
yeah. But that's Gillian and Dave. I mean, I just love them in general. But yeah, that just arrived in the mail, and then I've been listening to some reissues recently. I'm a huge Prince and Queen are probably my 2 top all time faves. But they just put out the mega Sign of the Times Prince remastered box set with 60 vault tracks. So I've been slowly digesting some of that stuff, which is always, and reading the line. I'm a big liner notes guy too. And the same with Tears for Fears, Seeds of Love. I'm a huge Tears for Fears fan.
How can you not be? I'm sorry if people aren't. I mean, they had 2 hits that everybody's like, oh yeah, but they're one of those bands that take those hits, throw them away, and then listen to all their other stuff, and you're going to be in for a huge surprise.
And it's interesting how much we've been listening to that in the car, but it's interesting how much it still feels really timely right now. I feel like everyone needs primal scream therapy right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I was super into.
Yeah, they were all into I mean, they were talk about influence go back to the earlier conversation is they were so influential on me starting to write lyrics and stuff. My first concert ever was in 1984 at the North Dakota State Fair, seeing Huey Lewis and the News when I was 14. But the next year, I really got into Tears for Fears when they came out. Actually probably 84 when I got into them. But they were my second concert when Songs for the Big Chair tour.
Yep.
And then I started reading their bios and their whole thing about primal scream therapy and all that. And that's when I started kind of like, they were like my first kind of introspective band, like, oh, I'm going to study, like, why is this making me feel? And why am I feeling emotional? And this is not about a person, but this is something else, self-inquiry and all this stuff. I mean, they're just like, if you don't like Tears for Fears, something is really wrong with you.
Yeah.
I feel that way about Peter Gabriel too.
Yeah.
When people have been like, no, I'm not so into Peter Gabriel, I've done a deep, deep look into their eyes to try and glimpse their soul. You know what I'm saying?
I do it. So where this podcast originally came from was a bunch of us sitting around a fire, always arguing and discussing music and arguing about what a perfect album is and everything. And there's a couple perfect albums that we all could agree on. And one of them was Peter Gabriel's So. Yeah. And you could picture a bunch of dirty guys sitting around a fire, drinking beer, arguing with each other. And then we all just bring it down a notch. We're like, well, Peter Gabriel's So. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, that one is. I'm like, look at us. We look like a bunch of little girls now because we're all agreeing on Peter Gabriel's So after we were arguing about Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. But we're all in agreement on So.
I think Us is a better record, honestly.
But those two records kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
They do. Sort. They do. They're a conversation. I saw
him twice on the Us tour, and that was another one of those ones where I couldn't get anybody to go with me. I was like, well, I guess I'm going in.
Talk about, I'll say in terms of, we're totally derailing and everything and going on a tangent. But I will say that seeing him live and in terms of the whole, installation-based element of what he does and this whole visual art component and the whole conceptual thing. That's a
lot of what you do.
Right. Well, that was a big eye-opening experience for me, too, in terms of seeing it on a large scale and what that could mean, So that was a tipping point for me as well.
I want to see Kate Bush before I die.
Well, let's hope we get some live music soon. I just had put together a social distance. Yes, I am.
God, he's just like,
I feel like he's regretting asking us about what we're listening.
No, that's absolutely fine. This is what this is for. I like going down different paths because you get true answers out of people because you're constantly thinking. And that's what music does. It constantly makes you think, and it constantly makes you think about the next thing that led to that. This has been great.
Last thing I'll mention before we get off, just to tie up the what are we listening to. I'm also I started a long time ago, the Keith Richards autobiography, and I put it down. I just picked it back up and reading it. So I've grabbed all my Stones records, and I'm kind of starting to I like listening to the records while I'm reading autobiographies, and I'm doing that too.
Yeah, I just got back I'm reading Total Fucking Godhead, which is the biography on Chris Cornell. And it is one of those things where I'm reading about it and then I have to go back and listen to the songs in the order that I'm reading about in the book. It brings a little bit of a different aspect when you're hearing that. It's a great book too. If you want something to read, it's a really great story.
I did that with Thin Lizzy a few months ago too, and Phil, reading the Phil book and going, man, so much music in that guy.
You're going to have to listen through a bunch of Ani DeFranco's albums with me because that's the biography I'm reading right now. And it's interesting to see it contextualized in terms of what her experience is, actually.
She was one of my sister's favorites.
Oh, she was a strong influence for me too as a songwriter. She still is. And
I was I have to say, my sister at one point, she dragged me when it first happened, Lilith Fair, and I felt so uncomfortable when I got there because I literally at one point I felt like I was the only man there, and 20 minutes into the show starting, I felt like the luckiest man on the earth that I got to see all these women perform this amazing music that I never would have given a chance just because it was like that.
I went to Lilith there.
So you weren't the only man.
No, I wasn't.
Well, at the one that I was in New Jersey, I pretty sure I looked around. I was searching. I was searching out for someone else, and then I was like, I'm here with my sister. We're just gonna have a great time.
The only person I didn't like there was Jewel. Everyone else was awesome.
You're saying that on the record right now.
I am saying it. I will say that.
That's fine. Hey, you're allowed to be honest. If you have an honest opinion, you have to be honest, and that's what I always say. Honesty, as much as it may hurt somebody, you're still being honest, and you just have to accept it. And that's.
And I met Susanna Hoffs at Lilith Fair too.
Awesome. Surprised you're married. All right. So I'm going to give my 3 for the week, and then I'm going to have you guys give everything you can to find you guys. So my 3 for the week are the Wonder Stuff. They're an English band in the 80s and 90s. Amazing band. Absolutely love them. Can't ever really get enough of them. Heat Miser, pop punk band that was Elliott Smith's pop punk band. A lot of people don't know that he was in a pop punk band before he became really sad. At Heat Miser, and then a new band out there called Twin Foxes. Amazing band. Guy was in a guitarist for Build Tall Buildings, drummer for Willow. He's got his own thing now, and it's absolutely amazing. Cool. So I'd like to thank Moksha, Jemal. Please tell everybody how to find everything you're doing with your organizations, how we can help, what we can do, and let's get everything out there and try to get some more support.
Cool. Well, our website, of course, is the main resource, www.hudost.com, HuDost.com.
Yeah, we're all over Facebook, and all our links to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube are all on our website.
Yeah, and actually all of the information for the new single is on there as well as how you can learn more about Poor People's Campaign and give there. And as we said, all of the proceeds from the new single are going to the Poor People's Campaign.
PoorPeoplesCampaign.org.
Yeah.
Or if you on our web store, we have a like a little EP of like the song, an a cappella mix, an instrumental mix, and then the original demo with slightly different lyrics. That they can pay whatever they want for that, and whatever money comes in for that goes to the Poor People's Campaign.
Yeah, exactly. But check out.
And then one.org if you want to get involved with an organization that actually works, and they never ask for money. They just send out, contact your senator about this, or please send this email or whatever. So it's
all through our website, but definitely we are trying to be better at encouraging people to follow us on social media, because we're the twits that always forget to do that at festival shows and like stuff like that, and on this kind of thing. And then our manager goes, "Why didn't you ask people to follow you on social media?" So please follow us on social media.
We forgot again.
Yeah, we'll get it out there for you on our social media.
Awesome. Awesome.
But thank everybody for tuning in to this episode. And I want everybody to remember to go out there and have a great time.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Shane.